Hi everyone, today I'm testing out these panels that have a built-in frame. I'm using a 5-inch round. I'm also using liquid as my medium today. I add a little bit of medium to my oil paint as I go to speed up the drying time. When I use liquid, it's usually dry by the next day. It's slow enough to blend in the moment, but dries quick enough that I'm not waiting for layers to dry. So I start this the same way I do all my other water paintings, by laying out the basic colors, usually a dark, medium, and a couple light blues. I like to make sure I'm not putting down too much paint on the panel. I do that so that when I go to blend, there's not so much paint that it gets really muddy. I also like using a very soft paintbrush for blending. I personally like using the Monday Mops by Rosemary & Co. I've personally never tried this, but I've seen people say they use makeup brushes to blend because they're really soft. So you don't need a special kind of paintbrush to blend, but when you're shopping for one, just try to get one super soft. I find sometimes watercolor paintbrushes are great for this. I also like having a grid on my panel and then the same grid on my reference photo so that I can see and kind of dumb down the painting to like what shapes are in this square and just focus on that until I'm ready to move on. And it just makes it so much easier because there's a lot of information in these water paintings and it can be really hard to keep where you're at with all the different lines. Water paintings are really forgiving, so as long as you kind of have what you need in the general location, you can kind of pull it off. You know, if something's not quite exactly right, you can't really tell. You just want to have it close as you can. I've also learned that like if I'm having a hard time in a certain section and something's not going in the right spot, I find it easier to just leave it, and it's a lot easier to fix in the next stage when you do like a glaze, and then you can just add, you know, like what you need without all the colors moving. I usually find that my first layer of a wave painting comes out more dull than I'd like, and it's because that really light blue that I'm using gets mixed with the medium and dark blues and it just loses its brightness. I usually don't worry about this until my second layer, and I will take that same white blue color and kind of do like a glaze over those lighter areas, and it just kind of pushes the vibrancy and brightness. So now it's the next day and the layer is dry, and now I'm doing my lightest blue glaze over the highlights to push the contrast in the painting overall. I go back and blend out these lines, but I try really hard to just do it really gently so that the line doesn't completely get blended out and you can still see it, but I just wanted it to kind of fade in and be smooth. Now it's time to add the sparkles. So this is kind of like the light reflecting on the water at sunset. And to do this, and in my reference photo, around all the sparkles is kind of like an orange glow. So I go ahead and do a glaze of that, and then I add the bright whites in the center of that orange glow. And with this, I'm not just kind of placing them wherever I want. I am getting all this information from my reference photo so that the light reflections make sense. At this time, I'm also adding some brightness next to the sparkles because I noticed that even though I tried to brighten up my whites in the ocean, they're still not quite as bright as my reference photo. So you'll see me working in the sparkles, and then I add some really like bright blue, almost white sometimes, right next to the sparkles. And this just really gives the illusion that the water is really bright and the sun is hitting it and causing that reflection. And again, I'm getting all this information from my reference photo and just comparing the painting to that reference photo. I never paint without a reference photo. I think it's really necessary to understand the lighting of a scene, of a wave. I live really close to the beach, so it's easy for me to get reference photos, and that's why you see me paint a lot of these scenes, is because that's kind of what I'm around the most, and that's what inspires me. I'm nearing the end of this painting. I like to take a few steps back from my piece to see if anything stands out and needs to be fixed. I end up adding even more highlights, which helps with the overall contrast of the piece. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and seeing my process of how I painted this wave. Let me know if you have any questions and I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. I'd also really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe so I can continue making videos like this.